Hi, everyone. For those of you that don't know me or haven't taken one of my classes before, my name is Maggie Westcott. I'm a chef and I'm a health coach and I'm a cooking instructor. And I just love, love, love food. I'm really passionate about cooking and teaching people how to eat really good food. It's really, really fun for me to present these classes to you guys because I know how tricky food can feel to people, especially when you're navigating something like a gluten or dairy-free diet. And I love to try and simplify that for people because I've had a lot of experience with it. And if you start living that way, it becomes easier and easier. And it's my joy to share that with everybody. So today we're doing a really fun class. Okay, tonight we're doing a fun class on desserts. So I think there's a place in everybody's life for dessert. I think, you know, regardless of what food sensitivities you have, I think it's great to be able to fit this in because food is about celebrating. It's about joyfully eating. And a lot of people feel when they have been given a new food sensitivity or thing they have to avoid, food doesn't feel joyful anymore. So I was previously a chef at a bed and breakfast here in Stillwater, Minnesota, where I am, called the Rivertown Inn. And through my work there, I just discovered there were so many people out there that were just super excited to eat a good meal because they were gluten-free or dairy-free or egg-free or plant-based, and just not finding good food or not even knowing how to cook good food for themselves. And so two of these recipes are recipes that I actually made quite a bit at the end. I'm going to make gluten-free chocolate chip cookies, and these were like our signature cookie while I was there. And I don't know if they're still making them or not, but people loved them. I couldn't believe they were gluten-free. They're super fun, delicious recipe. And then one of the things that I served for breakfast really often was this berry and basil salad with black pepper and coconut whipped cream. And people loved it. And it's super fun. And I thought it'd be fun to do right before the 4th of July because it's red, white, and blue if you're here in America. And it's a great, kind of festive, fun dish for that. So I am going to, I'm looking over here because I have my computer over here. If you want to chat, feel free to put type in a question in the chat box and I'll try to get to it as I'm cooking. Otherwise, I'll definitely take questions at the end as well. And so I'm presenting these classes in conjunction with a local chiropractor here in Stillwater, Healing River Chiropractic. So if you're local, check them out. Dr. Kelly's stuff is wonderful. And if you're not local, that's okay. I just love sharing this far and wide. But I just wanted to mention Dr. Kelly. So I'm gonna get started here. So I'm gonna make the chocolate chip cookies first. And sometimes when I'm planning these classes, I get a little overexcited when I'm planning them. And I planned 3 things that all need a mixing bowl. So you'll have to just bear with me a little bit while I clean out the mixing bowl between things that I'm making. But you can find ways to entertain yourself for like 30 seconds or something. So let's see here. No questions yet. Okay. So these gluten-free chocolate chip cookies, I love them. They're super versatile. They can be made nut-free. They can be made grain-free. I've given you options in the recipes that I sent out to you. If you're watching on Facebook Live, I will be posting a link to these recipes too. But for those that registered through Eventbrite, hopefully you found the recipes. And so in this recipe, you can make them with all almond flour, you can make them with all oat flour, or you can do a combination, which is how I have the recipe written, but there's a cup of each, so you can definitely sub either one. And so these come together really quickly, like most chocolate chip cookies do, and they have a really nice texture to them. So if you use all almond flour in them, they're gonna be chewier. If you use all oat flour in them, they're going to be a little crisper, but if you use the combination of both of them, they're just right, but they're just right either way. So I'm going to go ahead. I already mixed up the butter and the sugar in here, so you don't have to listen to that go for a while. And so I have that mixed up there. And then I also wanted to talk about, I eat a plant-based diet, so I don't eat eggs. So I mixed up a flax egg ahead of time, but if you eat eggs, you could definitely use an egg in its place. But A flax egg is just 1 tablespoon of flax and 3 tablespoons of water. And so it acts as a great substitute in recipes that call for eggs if you have an egg allergy or you don't eat eggs or whatever the case may be. So I just wanted to show you what that looked like. You mix it together and then let it thicken, and it gets kind of a gelatinous, you know, quality to it, just like an egg would. So I'm going to put that in and let that mix. So what I have in this mixing bowl right now is a earth balanced butter, and but you could also use coconut oil if you wanted, but want a fat like that. And then I have some brown sugar and some coconut sugar, and then I just put the flax egg in there. So I'm going to go ahead and just mix this up real quick. And my tip is the longer that you beat your cookie dough like this, and this one is a little bit of an exception, but it still works, you're going to get a fluffier cookie because you're beating air into it. And so I beat the sugar and the butter together for a few minutes, and then I just added the egg to it. So the next thing I'm going to add to this is I have some almond flour, some oat flour, baking powder, baking soda, salt. And a quick tip about oat flour. This is a really great gluten-free flour to use, and you can make it right at home. Oat flour, when you buy it at the store, can be pretty expensive, but if you just have oats, you can dump them in a blender. And I think I ground mine. I have a Vitamix. It's a high-powered mixer, so it maybe took me a minute to blend them. So if you just had a regular blender, it might take a few minutes, but as you can see, I'll just kind of show you, it makes a nice fine powder, and it's a lot cheaper than just buying oat flour, but you can also buy it too. Doesn't matter, either way, it's totally fine. But just a quick economical tip for you there. And so just this recipe calls for a cup of oat flour. I just did a cup of oats right in the blender. So, and then almond flour, you can buy that or you can make it. You can also make that in a blender. It's not that tricky, but you just got to make sure you don't turn it into almond butter, so you have to watch it. Oat flour, you can't really over grind. So I'm going to go ahead and throw those in. You could definitely do this with a handheld mixer as well. Either one is totally fine. This is just what I have. So I'm going to show you what this looks like, if you can see it. It comes together like a pretty thick dough, so like that. And oh, I forgot to add the chocolate chips, the most important part. I'll mix those up real quick. How could I forget that? All right. So I recommend using parchment paper. I use parchment paper on everything, so that it makes for really easy cleanup, and things don't stick then. You don't ever have a mess on the cookie sheet. I buy these like pre-cut sheets, but you can also buy it in like a roll. And so I'm just gonna do one sheet pan of these so you can see what they look like when they're done. But I also like to use it like a cookie scoop. This is about, I think it's like 1.5 or 2 tablespoons. I can't remember. It makes the perfect sized cookie, and I highly, highly recommend it. And so I'm just gonna scoop these out on the sheet, and I think I have some questions here, so I'm gonna answer them while I'm scooping. Okay. Okay, so whole flax or ground flax? Ground flax is what you want to use. It absorbs the water better, so that makes a great. I've never tried whole flax, but I think it'd have a harder time absorbing the water and creating the egg quality that you want. And then instant oats or regular. You know what? You can use either one. But the thing I forgot to mention is that oats do contain gluten. They're a gluten-free grain, but they're often processed on the same machinery as wheat. So you just want to make sure that you're buying certified gluten-free oats if that's a problem for you. I know if you're really sensitive to it, that's important, or if you have celiac disease, that's really important. So just make sure that you're buying the certified gluten-free ones. I can buy like the Bob's Red Mill ones here in Stillwater, and you can buy that on Amazon and everything too. I think that's a pretty good brand. So one tip, if the cookie dough's sticking, which it kind of is right now, you can stick the scoop in some water and it helps the dough fall off a little bit easier, but I won't do that too. Okay, so I'm gonna just flatten these just a little bit. Help them kind of spread out. They're not going to spread out too much, but I am going to just pat them down a little bit. Okay, so there we are, our nice little cookies. I'm going to go ahead and pop those in the oven. I'm going to do maybe like 11 minutes or so. If you do these with all almond flour, excuse me. If you do these with all almond flour, they're going to brown quicker. Almond flour, because it's a light colored nut, will brown a lot faster. So keep a close eye on them. Maybe look at them after about 9 minutes so you don't have burnt cookies. But otherwise, I say, I mean, depending on your oven too. Aren't I nice turning on the oven today when it's like 140,000 degrees here in Minnesota? All right, so I'm gonna quickly wipe out this bowl. I'll be right back. Okay, so the thing I'm going to show you next is magic. I'm not kidding. I don't know if you've ever heard of Aquafaba. It's this magical invention, but it's always been around. But it's become very popular, and it's what it is the water from a can of chickpeas, or chickpeas after you have cooked them on your stove or something like that. It whips up exactly like egg whites. You're not going to believe it. I always just am so excited whenever I use Aquafaba, because it's so crazy that here's the chickpea water, right? It's like this cloudy, murky, weird thing. And so that was just all the Aquafaba, all the liquid from a can of chickpeas. It's about 3/4 of a cup, but you don't have to get hung up on the amount of that. You can just use whatever is in your chickpeas. It's fine. This is a somewhat forgiving recipe. So I'm going to use the whisk attachment on my KitchenAid mixer, but you can also use a hand mixer if you want. And I suppose you could use a regular whisk and do it, but it's going to take a while. So I would recommend a motorized something like a handheld, mixer or this. And so I'm going to stick this on the mixer. With a little bit of cream of tartar. So the cream of tartar is going to stabilize it, just like if it were egg whites. Okay. So I'm going to just stick that in there too. And I'm going to put it on medium high. Okay, and while that's going, I'm going to look at these other questions. Can you substitute avocado oil or butter? You could definitely substitute butter. I wouldn't substitute an oil in those cookies. I don't think that would be very good. I don't, let me think about it. I've never tried it, but you could definitely substitute regular butter if you use butter. And can you taste the flax versus the egg? Not really, but egg will give it just a little bit more rise. Not a lot though, but you can't, the taste difference is phenomenal. So, can you guys hear me even though that mixer is going? Everyone can still hear me? Okay, I just want to make sure because that has to go for just a couple minutes. So, cream of tartar with real egg whites too. Oh, sorry. Okay, so somebody was asking, I mentioned cream of tartar with real egg whites. If you're whipping real egg whites, a lot of times you'll want to add cream of tartar to egg whites to get them to set. And so we're doing the same thing here. And this will look just like egg whites. You're not gonna believe it. I get too excited about Aquafaba. It's so cool. Okay. You can hardly hear the mixer. That's good to know. Thank you, Kevin. Any recommendations if you don't have earth balance butter? Sure, you can use coconut oil, like or any other kind of non-dairy butter, like Miyoko's brand. I know they sell a lot. So yeah, you could use coconut oil, any kind of non-dairy butter. I substitute applesauce for butter in a lot of for oil in a lot of my recipes, and I was going to experiment with that with this one. So I think you could probably try substituting like some applesauce or pumpkin puree for the butter too, but any kind of non-dairy butter would work. And then Marianne asked me, you don't have to let this rest. And Marianne's asking me this because I have taught her some things about gluten-free baking, and one of the tips I gave her was to let your gluten-free baked goods rest for 30 minutes before you put them in the oven. This is an exception because almond flour and oat flour are very absorbent flours, and so they actually don't need to rest. They can go right in the oven. So that was a good question, Marianne, and thank you for asking that. Okay, I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you this, you guys. Okay, can you see that? This is that chickpea water we put in there. Magic, right? I don't know. I'm a total food nerd. I can't help it. So I think so you can turn this over and it doesn't fall out. That's a pretty good sign that it's at stiff peaks. So I'm gonna, oh, I forgot to melt the chocolate. So I'm gonna put this back on the mixer to just let it go a little bit longer while I melt the chocolate. Okay, so I want to talk about the chocolate a little bit. So a lot of chocolate has dairy in it. So if you're avoiding dairy, I mean, obviously milk chocolate has dairy in it. So you want to avoid that. I would say a lot of dark chocolates don't have dairy, but you want to really make sure you read the ingredients. And so, you know, generally if you get a good bar of dark chocolate, it's probably not going to have dairy in it. So, and then chocolate is kind of the star of the show in this mousse, this chocolate mousse. And so just invest in a little, like a good bar of dark chocolate. So this is like 55% cocoa. It's a great chocolate that I love. I'm going to stick this in the microwave. I really like to melt chocolate in the microwave. It gets really, really smooth. But if you don't have a microwave, you could do this on the stove. So either one is totally fine. So I have a little bit of plant-based milk in there and almond milk in there. And when you're melting chocolate, you want to make sure that it doesn't burn. And so I like to do it in short intervals if I'm doing it in the microwave, like 30 to 60 seconds, depending on how much chocolate is in there. And a lot of times it'll, you know, if there's still lumps in there when you pull it out, if you mix it, it'll finish melting by itself. And that's kind of how you want it. So, okay. And so I'm going to melt that chocolate, and I'm going to look at this. I'll look at this again. This is, I mean, this is amazing. So I'm running out of bowls. Use that bowl. All right. I'm going to put this in this bowl so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so this chocolate melted really, really well. And I put it in for about a minute or so. And here's the thing, I should have melted this before I started getting all excited about the Aquafaba. Couldn't contain my excitement, clearly. And so you want this kind of room temperature before you add it to the Aquafaba. So I'm gonna just stick it in the freezer and help it cool down for a minute here so you guys can see this from beginning to end. And so I'm gonna do that. Okay. In the meantime, I am gonna put the, look at that. Amazing. Okay, so all right, I am going to clean my mixing bowl again, and then we'll come back to this after the chocolate's cooled down a little bit. I am multitasking here. I'm gonna grab the cookies out of the oven. Look at these beautiful things. Can you see them? Yeah, so they're nice, and I think they're done. I mean, basically, I mean, my trick when I worked at a bakery to see if a cookie was done is you kind of lift it up, and if it doesn't fall apart, they're done. So I just kind of lift them up to see, make sure they're kind of brown underneath. So these are done. There's our cookies. I wish you could taste one. That's the bummer about these virtual classes, is you don't get to taste them, but I know you'll make them at home and then you can taste them. So, okay, so the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to make this berry and basil salad with, oh, let's see here. Oh, Laura said that's so crazy, the Aquafaba. I know, right? Okay, so I'm going to, I didn't set myself up bowl-wise very well tonight. I apologize for that. But so we're gonna make the berry basil salad with a little bit of pepper. I know pepper sounds like a weird addition to fruit salad, but you're gonna be surprised. It melds really well with the peppery basil and the berries. You don't even really taste the pepper. You just think like, what is that strange flavor? Or that, not strange, no, because it doesn't taste strange. What's that amazing flavor? And so what I'm gonna do is I have some fresh basil here. I'm just gonna show you quick, a fun way to cut it for this salad. Stack the leaves on top of each other like this, and then you roll them up in a cigar roll. And then in the culinary world, this is called a chiffonade, and it's how you cut basil. It stops it from oxidizing and turning brown, which doesn't matter that much for this recipe, but if you're using it as a garnish and you want it to stay nice and green, you can cut it like this, and then you have these nice, pretty little strips of basil. So, but what I'm gonna do with it is I'm gonna pound it into some sugar, and so it doesn't really matter what it looks like. So I have just about a teaspoon of sugar in this bowl, And it's really, the whole reason for it is just to, I'm going to mash the basil into it, and that brings out the basil flavor even more. It just makes, I mean, this whole kitchen is just going to smell like basil, which I wish you could smell. So I'm going to throw the basil in there, and there's a little bit of pepper in there as well. I didn't put too much into my kids' away. And so, and the amount of sugar you use in here can vary depending on the season too. Like right now, berries are really, really sweet. So really you just need enough sugar in there to mash the basil into and bring out that flavor. So, so I'm just going to do this maybe for about like 30 to 60 seconds. You can do it as long as you want, but yeah. So this is kind of what it's going to look like. It looks a little bit sandy in there, right? Can you see that? Yeah, okay. It looks a little bit sandy from the sugar and the pepper, and my whole kitchen smells like basil. It smells so nice, so amazing. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the berries in here and just kind of let them marinate for a little bit. I would, if you have the time, like if you could let them marinate for like 30 to 60 minutes, that's ideal, because it just kind of helps release some of the juices from the berries and melds the flavors a little bit. But if you don't have time, it's okay. It'll still taste really good. And my other tip is, you know, raspberries can get kind of mushy, so I don't actually mix them in with this unless they're really good, sturdy raspberries, but because they can tend to get a little bit mushy sitting in here. So what I do is I just add them at the end. So you can do it either way, but that's just a little tip. And this salad's also really good with stone fruits. It's really good with cherries and peaches and plums. Like those fruits all work really well with the basil and pepper flavor. So feel free to experiment. And I think it's super fun to add fresh herbs to salads, to fruit salads, because they're kind of unexpected, actually to all salads, but they're kind of unexpected in the fruit. And I think people, so, oh, hang on, I gotta wash this. All right, so the next thing I'm gonna show you how to make is coconut whipped cream. This is a super, super fun one. I missed whipped cream when I first took dairy out of my diet years ago. You know, you miss some of these things that you used to be able to eat, and coconut cream was like a dream come true for me. And so what you do to make this is you take a can of coconut milk and you put it in the fridge. I would say for at least 12 hours. I always keep coconut milk in my fridge for this reason, so I can have whipped cream anytime. So let's see if I can get the can open. So what you do is you put the coconut milk, and what's going to happen is the fat's going to rise to the top. And so what you want to do is scoop that fat out and leave the water behind. And this will not work with light coconut milk. It just won't. There's not enough fat in it. And even if you put it in the fridge, it's just not going to get hard enough to do this. So what I'm going to do is scoop the fat out of this, and then I'm going to stick it on the mixer and we'll let it rip. So this particular brand of coconut milk is actually more like a coconut cream. You could buy coconut milk or coconut cream, either one of those, as long as it's the full fat coconut milk. But this brand that I get at our local Cub food store just is like mostly fat. So I feel kind of like I'm cheating or something, like I'm getting more more coconut cream than I should. But and then I just leave the water behind in there, okay? And this will work with pretty much any full fat coconut milk. I've used the Thai Kitchen brand. I've used some local ones from our local co-op. The one that I've not had good luck with, which I only tried it once because why do it, try it again, was the Geisha brand. I think it's yellow. It's Geisha. The coconut milk didn't harden on top. So maybe there was some kind of emulsifier or something in there, but just stay away from that one. If you know of any others, let me know. But so I'm going to stick this on the mixer. It's a mixer kind of day. And again, you could do this with a handheld mixer, or you could even do this with a whisk. So whatever you want, it's fine. See how my chocolate's doing here. Still feels kind of warm. I'm gonna taste it and see how warm it is. It's not. Okay, I'm gonna just let this chill for a couple more minutes while we make our berry parfaits. So the longer that you let this whip, the fluffier it'll get, the coconut cream. So you can't over whip it at all. So the longer that you put it in the fluffier it'll get. So I like to serve these as parfaits in like these little wine glasses, but you could also, you know, if you had a nice, pretty clear bowl or something, you could layer it that way. Or any kind of clear glass, I think it looks really, really pretty and fun. So. For time's sake, I'm just going to pull this out right now, but it could go a lot longer. I'll show you what this looks like. So it's turned into this beautiful like coconut cream, right? I'm about half as excited about this as I am about the Aquafaba, but still very excited about this. So, amazing. Isn't it amazing? I love it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, I talked about the cookie scoops before. I'm going to use a little bit bigger cookie scoop. You know, these are great for ice cream or cookies, or I don't know why I call them cookie scoops, but, and I'm going to use it to just put some of this coconut cream in the bottom here. And then I'm going to spoon some berries in there. And some of the raspberries I left out so they didn't get mushy. And put a little bit more coconut cream in there. And berries on top. And you can layer this as many times as you want. So you can, if you want to do it all the way to the top, you can. I've also done these in champagne flutes, which is kind of fun too, but you have to be a little careful when you're putting the whipped cream in there, but that makes for a nice festive dish as well. So a little bit more. And so you can kind of decide what you want on top, but you can see this makes a nice, you know, red, white, and blue, pretty presentation. I wouldn't make these too far ahead of time because the berries are wet and it will soften the whipped cream, coconut cream. So, I mean, you could probably make them like an hour ahead of time and stick them in the fridge, but too much more than that, I think the juices from the berries would start kind of flattening it out. So let's see, let me read this question here. Okay, so Kevin asked, I tried Aquafaba once, but it didn't stiffen up like yours. However, I look forward to trying it again. You should. I'd be curious, did you use it out of a can or did you use it from beans that you made from scratch? So let me know. And then what about freezing it? I don't know if are you asking if you can freeze Aquafaba? Yes, you can freeze Aquafaba. I don't think you can, well, I don't know, I've never tried freezing the mousse if that's what you meant, but maybe. What about adding flavor or extracts? Yep, absolutely. Yeah, you can absolutely add flavors or extracts, but not too much. You don't want to add too much water to this, like too much more liquid to it because it's going to deflate. So yeah, you could add like a teaspoon of an extract, and I think that'd be really, really good. Okay, you used it from a can. Okay, I wonder why that didn't work, Kevin. Maybe try the cream of tartar. If you haven't tried that, you could definitely give that a try. Okay, so my chocolate's like room temperature now, and rinse out the spatula. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, and this is the same thing you would do if you were making like a mousse out of cream and egg whites, is I'm gonna add just a little bit of this to the chocolate that I have here, because it's going to make it easier to mix into here. So we're just lightening it up a little bit and making it easier to mix in general. So I am, you can already see that's lightened up quite a bit, because like Kevin asked, it deflates easily, so you want to handle it as little as possible. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm just going to pour the chocolate in here. And then I'm going to just gently fold it in, okay? And what folding means is you go down and then fold it on top of itself, okay? And just use a really light hand, okay? And this, I like this mousse. You know, traditional chocolate mousses have raw egg whites in them, heavy cream. This is a lot healthier option and safer option, I think, because you just never know with raw eggs. So I think this is a little bit safer way to eat mousse. And I think it tastes really, really similar. So especially, so what we'll let it chill and it gets light and fluffy, airy. It's delicious. How many times have I said delicious during this class? I should like have people count at the beginning of my classes and tell me. Someone get a prize at the end. Okay, so you can see here this how this is mixed in. I hope you can see that. It's light and fluffy. It's a little soupy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spoon this into some nice wine glasses again. You could spoon it into whatever dish you wanted. I just thought it'd be a nice presentation. And oh, hang on, I gotta wash again. All right. And then, you know, this would be really nice with some of that leftover coconut whipped cream on top. So I think there is, and this would be really nice. You could, once it hardens up a little bit in the fridge, harden up, I don't mean it doesn't get hard. I mean, it gets like, I think we've all had mousse. It gets just a little firmer, but you could throw some raspberries on top or something. Actually, this little berry salad would probably be really delicious on top. So lots of things that you can do with this. And so, but for starters, just stick it in like this so it's able to set up on its own. You know, Kevin asked about adding extracts. I think some mint, peppermint extract or something would be really good in this. And I've used cherry and almond extracts in this, so those would be really good too. So here's our mousse. It doesn't make huge portions, but it's pretty rich. And so you could, you know, if you wanted a bigger dessert, you could just make more. So I'm going to stick these in the fridge. And you won't get to see that finished product because it'll take a couple hours, but you get the point. So, did I forget anything? Sometimes I get to the end of a class and somebody's like, "You forgot," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're right." So sometimes I remind people to tell me to come back. So, anyway, so I'm going to take questions if anybody has any. I just wanted to point out a few of my services that I have. I am a health coach and I do one-on-one coaching with people that have food sensitivities and allergies. And so it's my absolute joy to work with people that are transitioning to new dietary lifestyles or are having trouble transitioning. And so this is, and I love to empower people to cook. And so a lot of my coaching involves helping people, you know, take whatever they need to out of their diets. I have a program right now based completely on gluten-free, so transitioning to a gluten-free lifestyle. I usually throw a cooking class in there, a one-on-one cooking class, so we can do whatever, go through any things you're struggling with. I do personalized meal plans, and then I am going to be doing a deeper dive into gluten-free baking. It's going to be a paid class on July 22nd. And so I'll be talking about gluten-free flours, how to get the grit out of your gluten-free baked goods, how to convert recipes, things like that. So it'll be a longer 1.5 to 2-hour-ish class where we'll take a deeper dive into that, and then you'll leave that class with some with some better ideas of how to bake. And then you'll also get a recipe book with at least a dozen recipes in there, gluten-free. There'll be gluten and dairy-free recipes in there. And for those of you that took this class, I'm offering $5 off that class. And I have that on your sheet there, but you can use the code GF Dessert if you want to do it. So, okay. So does anybody have any questions about any of the desserts I covered, or any questions about gluten-free desserts in general or dairy-free desserts in general? I'd love to know. So what do you think of the gluten-free box and bag mixes on the market? I have purchased a number of various brands, some with xanthan gum. You know, I've never used any of them. I am a member of a number of Facebook groups with gluten-free baking, and people seem to really like them. I've noticed a lot of people like the Krusteaz brand and the Pamela brand, but I haven't worked with them at all. If you're curious about Kevin asked about xanthan gum. Xanthan gum is a binder, and so, which I would get into more in my gluten-free baking class, but you're gonna find xanthan gum in a lot of most gluten-free baked goods. It acts as, since there's not gluten in it, which binds baked goods together, xanthan gum works in its place. And there's workarounds to that too. So a lot of people are sensitive to xanthan gum, and there's other things that you can use in its place as well. So good question. Okay, what was the equivalent amount of aquafaba to number of eggs? So something I didn't mention about aquafaba is you can use it in baked goods as an egg substitute as well. But an egg is about a 1/4 cup. So you could, so this would probably be about this recipe would be about 3 eggs worth. So, because it was about 3/4 of a cup. So if you want to do that measurement, 1 large chicken egg is about a 1/4 cup. So, okay. Does anyone else have any other questions? This has been so fun. I love I love desserts. I was actually a baker before I was a chef. So my passion, what brought me into food was baking. I was a baker at Great Harvest, and just really, really loved baking. So these baking classes have been super fun for me to do. And so I'm glad to share them with you. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I have my blog, alternativedish.com, where I have a lot of recipes on there. But if you ever have questions about any of the recipes or conversions or anything like that, feel free to shoot me an email. I have a Facebook page. It's Alternative Dish. And then my Instagram is, I need to change it. It's Maggie Westcott. It's not under Alternative Dish right now. So you can find me in all of those places. All right. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you being here, and I hope to see you in another class. Have a good night.